All right, folks. Thank you guys for all coming in, and we're going to actually get started very shortly as soon as I knock out some other things. And by other things, I usually mean something. All right, there we go. All right, so with that being said, I think we're good. So let's go ahead and get into it. Today's date, August 17th, 2019, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host and most Will Buchanan. On How the Frack We Got Here, we do try to take events from the week and try to make sense of it all. And yes, a brother finally got his hair fixed. So, I've heard the jokes. It's okay. I feel luxurious now. So, make jokes. I'm good with that. That being said, before I do get into this is an adult podcast of adult nature, which means that language and things of a graphic or kind of disturbing nature may be shown, so viewer discretion is advised. So, usually in these types of weeks, we usually say, what has Trump done now? Which would probably be better sometimes to go ahead and say it because, unfortunately, Baby Huey seems to outdo himself every week. And this week was no exception.
In New Hampshire, the president sees a man he thinks is a protester, and this happens.
That guy's got a serious weight problem. Go home, start exercising. Got a bigger problem than I do. Got a bigger problem than all of us.
That guy turned out to be Frank Dawson, a Trump supporter, who was actually ripping signs from the protesters and helping the president. Frank Dawson says he didn't see me rip the signs away. Frank Dawson goes on to say, everything's good. I love the guy. He's the best thing that happened to the country. The president did call Mr. Dawson to leave a voicemail in which he didn't say, I'm sorry, but he tried to make peace.
Yeah, I mean, we just take a step back and note that the president and the people around him were okay with him mocking the person as being fat when the person was a protester, but when it turned out that he was a supporter, not so much. And the fact is that I was told that that's exactly what happened, that he actually had already taken the sign away from the protester, and that's why the president called him afterwards, because he is a supporter.
If you're not insensitive to begin with.
So, I honestly could make this up. I really wish I could. The thing about this is, for the simple fact of the matter, yes, our idiot president mocked one of his own supporters about his weight. Now, presidents are not supposed to be vain individuals. They're not supposed to be pointing out, weight, color, creed, orientation, however, all that above. You should be beyond that. You should actually be a humanitarian. It's Trump. Why are we expecting differently? It's just amazing to me that he told one of his supporters, he's a little fat and, he might need to go work it out or, change his life decisions. Think about that for a second. He literally told the guy, his own supporter, and the supporter was like, oh, I don't pay no mind. I used to say, how do cult leaders gather so many people? And I look at Trump and I understand, because I look at David Duke, I understand. I look at those that have followed men who have always been or tried to be above something, and now I finally get it. It's a simple fact of the matter is that a lot of people fell for the con. Trump is a con man. So a lot of people fell for the con and still falling for the con. And I shouldn't be surprised now that people are so buying into him that he can insult them and they're like, it's fine. I'll still be a Trump, MAGA 2020. And it amazes me so. The level of individual that will sit there and go with this, their entire house could be on fire due to Trump and they'll still vote for him. There's just no way around that. But anyway, that's just the tip of the iceberg, because he's also said something other stupid this week, but we're going to get into that. So, for all those who are stock market fans and for all those who have 401ks, this should concern you.
In concern tonight. Worried about re-election, sources say, as he watched the Dow in free fall today. You see the number, 800 points down. The reason, a fluorescent red recession warning light now flashing for the first time since 2007, which was just before the great market crash and recession. A recession which, it is important to remember, was the worst since the Great Depression in the 1930s. The stock drop today, the biggest this year, the fourth largest point drop in American history.
If you're just joining us, we closed at the session lows, down 800 points on the Dow.
Fears of another recession causing panic.
Breaking this evening, the big sell-off on Wall Street today. The Dow average plummeting 3%.
Trump took to Twitter, sending 9 tweets today about the economy, including trying to spin the plunge in interest rates into a positive. The president tweeting tremendous amounts of money pouring into the United States. People want safety. Well, the president is right about this. Money is pouring into U.S. treasuries, but that, as he well knows, is not a sign of strength tonight. That is a sign of deep recession fears. The lower the yield on benchmark treasuries, the lower the interest rates, the higher the fear of economic crisis. And today, the 30-year yield fell to its lowest level in history. Markets also afraid of Trump and China's trade war. And Trump took that head on today, too. The tweet, "We are winning big time against China." Well, only time will tell on this. But as for winning right now, Trump's war with China is hurting the United States big time. Trump first slapped tariffs on Chinese goods in June of 2018. And compared to a year ago, U.S. exports to China fell 19% this July. Bad for us. Meantime, Americans bought more from China than they did a year ago. Trump knows the economy can make or break him. He knows this all too well. Just listen to Trump.
Last year, for the first time in a decade, the United States was ranked the most competitive economy anywhere in the world.
I've made the economy so strong that nothing's going to stop us.
We have the number 1 economy on earth. Our country now has the hottest economy anywhere in the world.
Our economy is fantastic.
Well, that's not what the markets are saying tonight. And so Trump is blaming someone else, one of his favorite boogeyman, the Fed chief Jerome Powell, for the market free fall. Another tweet moments ago, China's not our problem. The Hong Kong isn't helping. Our problem is with the Fed. Why blame China when you could blame someone in the United States?
Yes. Why blame China when you can blame somebody else? So the reason why she can be concerned is exactly what Aaron Burnett said. To pretty much break it down, the stock market is literally the call sign rate for when we're about to have a recession. Let's not forget, this actually showed the signs of when Bush 2.0 was in office and we were in the middle of a recession, and the Dow itself had dropped 700 points. Now, for a lot of y'all who are wondering, pretty much, let me break it down to this. Let's say the stock market is a sink, and you always want to make sure that your sink can retain water. So the more water you can retain in a sink, the better you get your dishes cleaned. But let's say this recession is more like a drain. Why, for example, if your pipe has a leak, then of course you're going to be losing water. The recession is a big ass leak at the bottom of the sink. The only thing you're going to have is a big ass plumber's bill to fix it, simply put, because the leak is being ignored and nothing's being able to fix it. And unfortunately, in this case, the leak is Trump. His plan isn't working. His economy plan isn't working. His trade war with China is making things simply worse. And since the Dow itself hit what they call an inverted yield, which is basically the curve for when our market is either going to be bad or really bad. And it's like she said, if that curve is really low, yeah, everything's going to get affected. Your 401k, your stocks, your prices on anything, because let's be honest, 90% of what we have comes out of China. So again, prices are going to go up. Jobs, as he calls it, are going to be stagnant. And let me not even talk about some fact of the matter is just that deficits are going to climb higher. But again, that was Thursday. So pretty much here's Friday when they looked at the stock market.
After a roller coaster week on Wall Street, the Dow rising 306 points today, but ending with its 3rd weekly loss in a row. The president declaring the economy is strong at a rally in New Hampshire, telling the crowd there they have no choice but to vote for him or lose their 401ks and everything else. ABC's Kira Phillips is at the White House tonight.
24 hours after Wall Street took its deepest dive of the year, President Trump warned his supporters that without him, they can kiss their life savings goodbye.
If for some reason I wouldn't have won the election, these markets would have crashed. And that'll happen even more so in 2020. But you have no choice but to vote for me because your 401ks, down the tubes, everything's going to be down the tubes. So whether you love me or hate me, you got to vote for me.
But there are growing fears of a recession. Markets on edge amid the president's trade war with China.
I never said China was going to be easy.
Actually, he did. Just last year, the president tweeting trade wars are good and easy to win. In New Hampshire, the president's rally interrupted by a protester.
That guy's got a serious weight problem. Go home, start exercising. Get him out of here, please. Got a bigger problem than I do. Got a bigger problem than all of us.
Turns out the president singled out the wrong guy. The man he mocked was actually a supporter. He later got a friendly call from Air Force One, the president leaving him a voicemail.
Kira Phillips joins us now from the White House. And Kira, before heading out to that rally, President Trump pressured Israel into blocking a visit from 2 American congresswomen. The move triggered international outrage, and today Israel seemed to back down a little.
Okay, just had to cut that off because that's going to go into something else I'm going to talk about. But the reason why I wanted to show that was simply put, and trust me, that's the second dumbest thing that he said. Trust me, there's a third. It never ceased to amaze me, again, the cult-like behavior of Trump supporters. And I say cult-like because I know some people who are Trump supporters, and they have tried to defend their point on that. And I usually just ask questions, which is kind of the way how I got around all of it was I asked logical questions. It's just like, what made you vote for Trump, and is your life better now? Because I've already said it best. Anybody who actually has higher income or is above the 100K line, you're doing great because, let's be honest, the economy is tailored toward you. Taxes are tailored toward you. But if you're below that, way below that 100K line, then of course it's not going to be good for you because the economy is not tailored for you. So usually the people I talk to are not at that 100K line and up, but they'll still sit there and say we're better off than where we were. And I showed them that clip where he sat there and said, "You have no choice but to vote for me." That doesn't sound like a president. That sounds like a dictator, and it sounds like a dictator that's pretty much telling you, yeah, you have a choice, but you really don't. Not unless you want to keep winning. So again, it never ceased to amaze me that although the stocks are fluctuating, they are. I will wholeheartedly admit that, but they're not fluctuating in a positive way. I mean, you don't on Thursday fall 800 points, then come back up 300 points on Friday, only to still be at a negative 700. Which, bottom line, it doesn't bode well if the stock market is saying that America is about to hit a recession period, because anybody who knows history, this is exactly what led to the Great Depression. Well, the simple fact of the matter is, when you sat there, it's almost like Reaganomics, and it never ceased to amaze me how many times Republicans have tried to push that forward. If we feed the top, it'll somehow get to the bottom. That's bullshit. It doesn't work. So I'm not surprised now that Trump is pretty much saying that you need me because of all the mess that I caused. You know what that is? That's pretty much saying I caused this mess. I'm not going to say I caused this mess, but in order for you to get out of this mess, guess what? You need me. That's what it pretty much sounds like, and that's why I say it's bullshit. But again, really should not be surprised by that particular one, because Trump wasn't the only person that said something dumb this week. This guy, let me just play the video, it's a lot easier.
Republican congressman questioned if humanity would exist without rape or incest. There are now new calls for Steve King to resign tonight, and here's Mary Bruce.
Tonight, Republican Congressman Steve King is facing new calls to resign after he questioned whether humanity would even exist without rape and incest. The Iowa Republican was defending legislation banning nearly all abortions, including in cases of rape or incest, when he said this.
What if it was okay, and what if we went back through all the family trees and just pulled those people out that were products of rape and incest? Would there be any population of the world left if we did that? considering all the wars and all the rape and pillage that's taken place.
King's Republican challenger was quick to denounce the remarks. State Senator Randy Feenstra tweeting, "King's bizarre comments and behavior diminish our message and damage our cause." King has already been condemned by his own party for his racially charged comments in the past. He was stripped of his committee assignments earlier this year after saying white nationalist, white supremacist, Western civilization. How did that language become offensive? But one person who hasn't publicly distanced himself from King, President Trump.
There's no signal from Donald Trump that he's anything other than supportive of me, but he hasn't commented very much either along the way.
So let's get right to Mary Bruce. She's live in Washington tonight. So, Mary, what's the word from the White House tonight? Does the president still support him?
Well, David, the president has not weighed in, and so far the White House is not responding. But tonight, one top Republican, Congresswoman Liz Cheney, says King's comments are appalling and bizarre, and she says it's time for King to go. David.
Bin time. The man's views are archaic as shit, so we really shouldn't be surprised by that. But it never ceased to amaze me that, when it comes to rape and incest, it's almost as if, and I said it before on my Offense podcast a while back, that America has a rape culture problem. Like, the real scary part about all of this is how so many individuals out there, some of them mostly males, Caucasian males, have this normal, it's almost considered part of the plan approach to when they talk about rape and incest. And it's like, well, with rape and incest, we wouldn't have a population. I'm just thinking to myself, this goes to show you how out of touch they are. And also, because of the fact that Steve King's a racist, shouldn't be surprised that Donald Trump is not pulling away from him. He loved Donald Trump is a racist. Keep in mind, to this day, he has yet to denounce white supremacy. He has yet to denounce white nationalism. He says that people on that very side are very nice people. He has never yet to dismiss pretty much racist predators, pedophiles, and perverts, because it's his circle, it's his voter base. I shouldn't really be surprised about that. But really, the craziest thing about it is, like I said, Trump said three dumb things today. Now, Miles says he has said three dumb things this week. This just shows you again, like you can sit there and tell me, and I've had Trump people sit there and try to tell me this. They try to tell me that Trump's not against women. Really? Explain this.
To Washington, new information out. The Israel official has confirmed that they will not allow Representatives Omar and Rashida Tlaib to enter the country. So I want to bring in Rachel Scott with the details of this. Rachel, can you just give us the updates on what President Trump just tweeted out right now?
Yeah, strong words from Israel there, saying the decision has been made and the decision is to not allow them to enter. President Trump did weigh in. I want to read you a tweet that he said. He said it would show great weakness if Israel allowed Representative Omar and Representative Tlaib to visit. The president then claiming they hate Israel and all Jewish people, and that there is nothing that can be said or done to change their minds. Minnesota and Michigan, he adds, will have a hard time putting them back in office. They are such a disgrace, the president tweeted. And this appears to be one of the first times that they are coming back into this line of attack after those send her back chants erupted at the president's rally in Greenville, North Carolina a few weeks ago, at the president's rally in Ohio. Following that, he did not mention any of those four congresswomen of color by name, but obviously they still prove to be in the line of attack for the president. Kimberly.
All right. And Rachel, I want to bring in Rick Klein for more on this conversation. Rick, what are we supposed to make of this, especially as the president is going to his rally tonight? This is definitely going to cause a little bit of controversy.
On one level, it is Israel following its own law. They bar the entry of people that are associated publicly with the BDS movement, boycott, divestment, and sanction movement. Both congresswomen have been involved in that in the past. But on another level, this is an aggressive move by the president to weigh in this matter before Israel made the decision, now for Israel to have made the decision. And there is a small irony in this that I think needs to be pointed out. Congresswoman Tlaib is Palestinian American. She has family in the West Bank. So those chants of send them back and the president's suggestion that they go back to where they came from, they're not being allowed, in the case of Congresswoman Tlaib, to visit family where she has roots, a place that she has roots. So it would appear, at least on the surface, that she couldn't go back even if she wanted to as part of a congressional delegation official visit by a member of Congress.
Crazy, isn't it? That Trump decided that he uses influence to basically tell Israel that for the two women, which he, like the report says, he did not name, but let's be honest, any woman that stands up against Trump is going to basically be made public enemy number one. It doesn't happen. It doesn't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. If you stand up against the president, you're a woman, somehow you're a target. These two women, along with Indra with AOC, did stand up against Trump, and rightly so. But he did point them out and say, you know, for the two people of Ilhan Omar, who's of Muslim descent, and Patricia Tlaib, who, like I said, Palestinian American, decided to do the whole send her back stuff. You know, the whole send her back chant, which was echoed at his rally, that he said he did something about, but he just sat there and basked at it like some megalomaniac. So again, really shouldn't be surprised by the simple fact of the matter that, like I said, this isn't the third thing. Like, oh, yeah, what I mean by that, Bond, when I said three, I mean the three dumb things he said this week. I mean, let's be honest. There is at this point, there's a video vault of dumb things that Trump has said and did, and to be quite honest, when future generations come around and they look at our history, I'm almost certain they're going to be able to look at them and look at our history and go, how the fuck did this man get elected? I'm almost certain it's going to be that. I can almost see some kids just looking at it and going, how the fuck did this man get elected? But again, in this sense, it's just simple fact that he influenced another country, which, by the way, we're still paying, because for some odd reason we're still funding Israel because of Jerusalem being a holy city, and, well, so-called holy city, but at the same time, we're still giving them aid and money and things of that nature, and yet they're listening to our so-called president about banning people. And I'm like, that's going to cause an international incident, especially since these are congresswomen who just have opposition to you. Well, here's the funny thing about that, as that story went on, because this came out after that.
Rashida Tlaib is rejecting Israel's new offer to allow her into the country to visit her 90-year-old grandmother in the West Bank on humanitarian grounds. Tlaib writing, I have decided that visiting my grandmother under these oppressive conditions stands against everything I believe in.
This is a country that has just made a huge error, I believe.
On Thursday, Israel announced Tlaib and another Muslim congresswoman, Ilhan Omar, were denied entry under Israeli law because they support a controversial boycott of Israel. Israel's condition for Tlaib's new invitation that she not promote the boycott. Israel's initial ban came just hours after President Trump pressured the Israelis to block the lawmaker's visit.
No, I don't encourage or discourage. They've said some of the worst things I've ever heard said about Israel. So how can Israel say, oh, welcome?
Today, Omar praising Tlaib for not going, tweeting, sending you strength and solidarity. It's the latest clash between the president and the two lawmakers. Last month, Mr. Trump faced bipartisan backlash after sending racist tweets urging Tlaib, Omar, and two of their freshman colleagues to go back where they came from, while Omar has come under fire for comments widely considered as anti-Semitic, remarks she has walked back. Last night, the president going after Omar again.
Representative Omar, that's another one.
And Kristen joins us now. Kristen.
Says a lot, doesn't it? That I don't encourage or disencourage. Yes, you do. I'm like, it is almost amazing to me how Trump supporters, how can you sit there and believe this man? I don't discourage or encourage. He just sat there and said that Israel should not allow people who talk bad against them. Well, let's be honest. There are a couple of groups out there that are pro-Israel, and they do sit there and fund Congress for pro-Israelite issues. Representative Omar only sat there and pointed it out. She sat there and said, it's all about the money. She's not wrong. She's not wrong in any sense that all she sat there and said was the truth. Like, let's be honest out there. There are groups out there that funnel money into Congress to get what they want. We shouldn't be surprised by this since Citizens United passed so long ago and needs to honestly be repealed. So that's their beef with Ilhan Omar, aside from the fact that she's a Muslim and a woman. And again, should not be surprised by that because for some odd reason, Trump, in the natural caucasity of an old white man, sees women as an actual threat. So I do got to give Tlaib credit. I mean, it is heartbreaking that she can't go home and visit her family, but at the same time, Israel walking back their ban on her and saying that she can come under a humanitarian request is really bullshit. And it kind of sounds like a setup because I don't blame her for not going because, who knows what could happen if she's in somebody else's country. I mean, she doesn't have the same protection as the president, unfortunately. So, my Aunt Teresa's watching. So, Aunt Teresa, thank you for watching, but I am going to cuss, and I am going to point out a lot of things that are going to be graphic, so I know I should have caught that when you were watching, so I apologize, but thanks for watching. So moving right along, I had to, because my Aunt Teresa doesn't like me cussing. Actually, yeah, she doesn't like me cussing. Although my Aunt Teresa has cussed, but that's a whole different story. But, aside from that, let's go ahead and go right into the next story. So the next two stories I'm about to show, again, this first one is the reason why I say a lot of things are going to change in our society, especially with the fact of especially for the gun culture that we have. And I fear what's going to happen is more stories like this are going to pop up, but I'll let the video speak for itself. But ran a lot faster than I gave it credit for. So, in that case, like I said, two teens were actually traveling from door to door, pretty much selling those smart cards. Fundraising things they do. And this woman decided to pull a gun on them. Now, I admit, because I used to do the same thing with fundraising and whatnot so long ago, and I admit it was a different time then. People knew what you were there for, didn't care if you were black. If you were selling chocolates, if you were selling candies, all that crap. But in this case and day and age, it seems to be smart cards. If you don't know what they are, they're pretty much just cards that have discounts everywhere. But again, that's neither here nor there. But the woman decided to pull a gun on them, even as on these teenagers. And I have to think that is a frightening thing, not only for the teenagers, but their parents. Simply put, the simple fact of the matter is just that the woman had no reason to pull a gun on them except the fact that all she saw was two black kids and then immediately pulled a gun. And that actually worries me so much because I'm going to be honest, like I'm not a I'm not a parent in any sort of, I'm not a parent, I am an uncle. But I fear for my nieces and nephews when I see stuff like that. Like if my siblings said, hey, we're going to take them out and do fundraising, I would be like, no, we're not, because we don't know. I mean, it just seems the growing stigma is just that if you're black, you're trouble. And let's be honest, that seems to be the case. It's the whole thing of if you're black, you're trouble. It's like this isn't the only time we've seen black kids who are actually doing productive things get guns pulled on them. I mean, not only does it say for the culture, but what does it say as far as you being a black child? That you can't go to places that, well, let's be honest, let's just see a place a white child can go to. And I've experienced that. I mean, I've never, thankfully, had been held at gunpoint, but I've actually ran into that same type of racist nature. And thankfully none of the kids were hurt. The woman was arrested and brought up on charges, and rightly so. And a lot of people, when I was reading that story, said, well, she was only defending her home. But while that may be her right, what gives you the right to pull a gun on children? It's like, unless your life's in immediate danger, why are you pulling a gun from Jump Street? Because I'll be honest with you. When I used to do a delivery job and I had to go out in the middle of nowhere, and I mean you want to talk about some middle of nowhere places? Let me tell you the middle of nowhere places. I'm talking about the places where you have that one stop, 4 mailboxes, a long ass country road that divides into 4 areas in the woods, and you had to deliver packages. And you saw some signs out there. I saw Confederate signs. I saw some Aryan Brotherhood signs. And again, I had to go out to these places and deliver. You want to talk about the simple fact that I was flinging packages from the truck and kept it pushing? Yeah, damn right I did. Why? Because the nature of those people and what they showed meant to me that they're not going to be friendly to my black ass. So, with that being said, it's just a growing stigma. And the growing stigma is, simply put, that a black child is always going to be seen as a threat. And that is the shit that needs to change. Because more stories like that one are bound to happen, almost in the same sense that the next story is honestly going to be just like the mass shootings, is going to be literally a roundabout thing. And with that being said, let me just play this video, and let me warn you guys, it is graphic. So viewer discretion is advised.
Hey guys, can I talk to you a sec? What's going on today? Alright, what are your names?
So I was walking down the street and some men just confronted me with a gun and they fought me and tried to take my belongings. They took my wallet, which had my ID and my social security.
Okay.
And then all my temporary ID.
What's going on today? Alright, what are your names?
What's the reason?
Alright, so we got a contact that, keep your hands out of your pockets. Possible assault that occurred?
Oh, I didn't touch you.
Okay. Put your hands up for me a sec. Put your hands up. Right. So we got a report of 2 people, similar descriptions, possibly having a gun, alright? So don't reach for your waist. We're going to just check and make sure that you don't have a weapon, alright?
Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Get your hands up! Get your hands up! Get your hands up! Get down on the ground! Get down on the ground!
We need a med kit. We need a med kit. Give me a medical kit. He's a gun.
Yeah.
Take his pants. Take the shorts off. He's got a gun in his pants.
I can't get to it.
Hold on. I'm cutting the pants off.
The police appear to argue that they shot Mr. Bailey because they feared that he was going for a gun at the time. And in this instance, the video shows that there was no evidence to support that anybody was imminently at risk of being killed or harmed.
So basically, So basically, in this case, another child was actually shot in the back while running away. Now, if this case sounds familiar to a lot of us here in Nashville, that's pretty much the case of Daniel Hamburg, who was running from an officer on camera, and you could literally see the officer shoot the guy and shoot the kid in the back, being that he's no threat. Now, in this case, a lot of factors out there are still unknown at the time of that publication. They never did say that the gun that they found on the victim was tied to the armed robbery, because they didn't say anything about any shots being fired. At the same time, the real standout thing here is, because a lot of people say, well, they did find a gun on him, so he must have ran for a reason. Here's the thing about this. A lot of people will never understand, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Unless you're a black male, you're not going to understand the fear that we have toward police. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You can be knowledgeable, you should be knowledgeable about all the laws in your city and state, because there's a lot of police out there that are counting on you to be ignorant of those. Now, with that also being said, in this case, there is honestly no justification for why that cop shot that kid in the back. There isn't. You can argue that up. You can argue that from up and down. You can sit there and say, well, he seemed guilty, so why did he run? The thing about it is the excuses don't work anymore. He should have complied. Yeah, we had a young black man complied. He still got shot. Well, he shouldn't have ran. Well, sometimes they didn't run. They still got shot. We got people that happen that too. Well, why didn't he listen to the officer? Some did. They still got shot. So whether you run or don't run, listen or don't listen, comply or don't comply, if you run into an officer that's ready to reach for the gun on you and you're black, then at that point, the excuses stop. When do we start looking at the officer's training and going, why did you pull a gun if he's running away from you? Because that becomes the question. Why did you pull a gun if he's running away from you? Because that doesn't sound like that's imminent danger. You could have pulled anything else non-lethal that you have. I mean, you do have tasers, you do have mace. Ironically enough, you couldn't actually catch up to the kid to actually put him in handcuffs if you felt he was a threat. But you felt enough to pull a gun and shoot him in the back and sit there and say, when he gets back up to it, because you notice they said it as loudly as they could on the body cams. Oh, he did have a gun. So that makes it justified? No. That makes it you just dropped from murder to manslaughter is what you did. And like I said, it's another thing where I also said about the police. I said that the simple fact of the matter is, in that case, law enforcement should not answer to law enforcement, because there's not a very good trust level when the police is being investigated by other police. It comes to a point that, like I said, here in Nashville, we're actually still getting together. I mean, we did vote in a public oversight committee for our Metro Police Department, which still did not go over well for Metro Police, because it's amazing how a group of individuals that is supposed to protect and serve our community doesn't like it when they have to answer to somebody. Imagine that. But again, it's just one of those things to where there needs to be some changes in the way police treat people of color, in the same way that you want to end the fear, you want to end the stigma, you want to end that silence that nobody talks to you when something happens, then you need to change, and then you need to change the narrative. And the only way you're going to do that is to basically admit fault, which we rarely see police unions and fraternal order police actually do that. So again, I really shouldn't be surprised about that. But again, another life is lost, and that is fucking heartbreaking, because that's another kid that gets buried, another mother that has to grieve for that. And yet I guarantee you those officers will get administrative leave with pay, only be back on the force. Please tell me I'm wrong. But moving right along, I said again, when it comes to law enforcement, the modern day Gestapo, or as we like to call them, ICE, decided that this individual, I should say this current individual that worked for ICE, during a protest out of an ICE detention center, decided that he's going to get to work no matter what, even if it means through people.
Calm down, calm down.
I got pepper spray. Please help me.
Now, in that case, of course, that was an actual protest because unless you've been under a rock, ICE has been empowered to basically search, detain, and deport illegal immigrants, which I find it's funny that if illegal immigrants are pretty much that much of a danger, why are they pulling them from places of employment? I'm just saying. But anyway, this actually was a sit outside of an ICE detention center where the worker, which was a corrections officer for ICE in the detention center, decided that, hey, I'm going to get to work no matter what, and if you're in my way, I'm going to run you over. You have to love that mindset that I'm going to run over people regardless of how you feel. Now, eventually, that man actually did get fired, which he should have been. But again, the simple fact of the matter is just that that the fact that this man decided that he's going to just run over people to get to work and protesters, which isn't the first time that people have tried to run over protesters. I mean, you've actually seen it in different other cities and states where people have ran over protesters. And I'm thinking to myself, much like shootings, this should not be normalized. I mean, just like in Charlottesville, where you saw that one guy literally take his car and use it as a battering ram through protesters. And of course, that man got life in prison. Technically, he should. I mean, as he should be, because of the lives he ruined and lost. In the same sense, this person who was a correctional officer was basically just saying, "I'm going to run over you, and I'm not going to care how you feel about it." And all the more reason why he should be fired. Because if he makes that decision with protesters outside of where he works, imagine what he does inside. With people who don't have a voice and don't have a say, and they're probably not being treated like decent human beings. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, they just turned around and forced the Trump administration to allow mouthwash and toothpaste for illegal immigrants. Think about it. It took a court order to get hygiene products to these individuals. That alone should tell you something. But anyway, moving right along, I did say I would get to the third thing that Trump has said that was stupid this week. And just like the rule of three, this does not disappoint. I wish I could make this up.
This morning, President Trump has on multiple occasions discussed trying to buy the country of Greenland, and White House counsel has looked into it. That's according to a source familiar with the matter. Greenland is an autonomous Danish territory. The president reportedly told advisors last spring that Denmark was having financial problems because of the subsidies it pays to Greenland and wondered if he should buy it. It's unclear if Denmark would consider such an offer. The U.S. has previously tried to buy that strategically located country. President Truman offered to purchase it for $100 million in 1946, but Denmark declined the offer.
And here's Denmark's response.
Deal.
How about the U.S. buying Greenland? All of it. The world's biggest island, 80% of it covered in ice. Our Seth Doan reports tonight from Greenland.
To the prospect of selling this stunning, resource-rich island to the U.S., Denmark's government said today, in essence, thanks, but no thanks. Denise and David Holland with NYU were surprised by the idea.
This is news to us.
What would you make of that suggestion of the U.S. trying to buy Greenland?
I think you should talk to Denmark. They're going to not be happy.
She's right. Maybe we should buy California, this member of Denmark's parliament joked today. Sources tell CBS News President Trump is interested in Greenland's strategic and military significance. The U.S. already has an airbase in northern Greenland. And in this tiny coastal hamlet of Kulusuk, population 250, we found residents not exactly enthusiastic about the U.S. taking more ground.
Trump is maybe a little crazy.
You thought the president was crazy?
Yeah, I think so.
This would not be the first time the U.S. has tried to buy this place. Back in 1867, the State Department made an inquiry. And then again, after World War II, President Harry Truman offered $100 million to buy Greenland. Both attempts failed.
That alone should tell you a lot. That for some odd reason, Trump being the president still believes he's playing the Celebrity Apprentice. And for some odd reason, they still believe that they can still buy Greenland. And it never ceases to amaze me that the world laughs. Every time Trump says something or does something, the world laughs. I'm going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Mexico's still laughing. I'm going to buy Greenland. Denmark looked at them like, I wish you would. It never ceases to amaze me the level of stupidity this man will say, because at this point, let's be honest, he hasn't been held accountable to it at all. Now, I know that they mentioned about Truman, but again, Truman didn't make an inquiry, but then again, no other president since then, except for this fool, decided that, hey, I'm going to try to buy Greenland. Let's be honest, Denmark's not going for it. So again, like I said, I did say I would have three dumb things that Trump said today. There's three. However, again, he has also, like I said, with him, his whole issue against women, he also has a thing against trans workers, where his administration is still saying that the civil rights law that's put into effect does not cover LGBTQ workers. I'm sorry, guys, my LGBTQ community and family. Forgive me for saying that slow. It just doesn't roll off my tongue the way it should. But the Trump administration is still fighting the case where they're pretty much saying that a civil rights law does not cover transgenders and those of the LGBTQ community. And there are actually 3 cases that are about to be heard in the Supreme Court over this. Because, let's just be honest, and what kills me so much about this is, it's just simply put, it's just people that just want to work. There honestly should be no discrimination, period, really. Regardless of your color, creed, orientation, binary identification, however you put it. If you want to work, you are qualified, then you should work. Nobody out there should be actually preventing you from doing that. I mean, but I guess I really shouldn't be surprised. Trump has actively removed the gays and transgenders from active military status, which I still think is asinine, because anybody that wants to serve their country, regardless of their orientation, should be allowed to do it, and they should be respected for it. But in this case, this idiot decided to go ahead and have them banned, in the same sense that he's now going after the same group of individuals and preventing them from saying, hey, you can be fired because of that, and that is bullshit. But again, normally I wouldn't be too concerned about this, except that the Supreme Court is now conservative leaning. And let's be honest, since Kavanaugh got added, it's just a little hard to sit there and think that the Supreme Court is going to give a fair ruling on this, because they are conservative leaning. And let's be honest, conservatives don't always have the best ideas. Not saying that liberals do as well, but let's just be honest, when it comes down to the scoreboard, conservatives got them beat by a landslide. So, our final story before we get to our good news segment is honestly about the healthcare system, mainly the VA system, and how fucked up it is. Do you want to know how fucked up it is? Listen to this story.
Decided to join the military, the U.S. Coast Guard was the perfect fit.
Training to save lives is what appealed to me.
She left after serving 6 years and, like many veterans, kept her VA medical coverage. 3 years ago, she ended up in the emergency room. She needed immediate surgery to remove her appendix, but was stunned 6 months later when she was hit with a $2,500 hospital bill after the VA denied her claim.
It's one of those things where you thought that they would be there, and they're not.
A new report by the VA Inspector General found during just one 6-month period, more than 17,000 veterans were slapped with over $50 million in medical bills the government should have covered. The investigation spurred in part by reports from our Minneapolis affiliate, CARE. The IG finding inside the VA there was, quote, systemic pressure to favor speed over accuracy in reviewing medical claims. They go for emergency care because they don't have time to get to a VA facility.
That's the situation.
And
exactly.
the VA is supposed to cover that, correct?
Exactly. The veteran may go into bankruptcy or have their credit rating irreparably hurt and affect them for the rest of their lives.
Amanda Wolf is suing the VA to be reimbursed, hoping it doesn't happen to any other American who served their country.
Do I hope that it'll make a difference? I do. Am I confident that it will? Not very confident. I'm hopeful, though.
Tonight, the VA tells NBC News they're reviewing the claims in the IG report for possible payment to veterans.
let's think about that for a second. You serve your country, regardless if it's Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Reserve, doesn't matter. You're a veteran once you serve. You served, you did your best, and I always said to every vet I meet, thank you for your service. Because I mean, I wish I could do more honestly for you than say that. But again, you would think for a country that you serve, and in my opinion, once you served, your medical insurance is no question. Whatever you need, you get, and you get at no cost to you. That's how it should be. You shouldn't be in this system to where you have to go to a single building to see a single doctor. And because of networks and coverage and all that crap, you shouldn't actually get the runaround to get the care and help and assistance you need. You shouldn't. Not for a veteran. And I've always sat there and said that. That's why I always said the VA is a mess. The VA is such a mess that they're denying individuals who have served, much like the individual that in that story, where she had to have surgery, and you would think that, okay, she's kept her VA insurance, she should be well taken care of. This is honestly a screaming red flag to me. It's like, how in the world can our Defense Department budget get increased every year, and at the same time, you see cases like this? How is it that we're paying trillions of, I'm sorry, not trillions, we're giving our defense budget billions upon billions of dollars, almost close to $1 trillion actually, and yet our soldiers still can't get care. Our veterans still can't get the proper care they need, or stuck with bills that they can't afford. This is a problem. But with the VA, I have to ask that question. It's like, they keep on, and I was like, and it never ceases to amaze me where I see people that have the ability to change things that choose not to do so. Conservatives, I'm looking at you. Only because you only appreciate the military when you go into war. You don't care for them when they get back. And it amazes me so that these people have the ability to fix the VA system and actually get these veterans the care they need, but just honestly choose not to kick the can down the road. Which only tells me, for the simple fact of the matter is, somebody along the lines is getting paid off and our soldiers are getting screwed. And that's fucked up. But again, it's just one of those things. It infuriates you. So it really does. It infuriates me. But we're gonna go ahead and move on to our good news segment, because like we always do on How the Frack We Got Here, we do talk a lot about the doom and gloom and maybe not so rosy stories, but it's the weekend, as we've always said it. You want to end the weekend on a good note. Go outside, go have some fun, because I just realized we're so close to autumn, and I am not a summer person. I actually hate the summer. I actually hate the freaking heat, because I'm in Tennessee, so that's pretty much God's hot plate, as far as I'm concerned. Because Florida and Texas may be hot, but Tennessee is God's hot plate. Because you don't like the weather, wait a few minutes, it changes. I kid you not. But again, you want to leave the weekend on a good note. So there's a couple stories here which I found heartwarming and kind of gives me a little bit of faith in humanity. The first one does, because Paul Mooney said it best: listen to the children.
With a family recipe and a homespun idea. Tonight we team up with WTVD in Raleigh for America Strong.
3-year-old Ava Lewis and her lemonade stand in Raleigh, North Carolina.
There you go. Go slow. I got it, Mama.
She has a growing fan base.
And it's really good.
Customers buy more than just one cup of lemonade.
Instead of cups, they've been coming back to back for gallons, and it's been unbelievable.
Using her grandmother's recipe, Ava is selling the homemade lemonade to help babies in need, and the community is responding.
People been popping up even when we close. So now I come up with a schedule on Ava's business page on Facebook.
Using the money to buy supplies, diapers for the babies at the Durham Rescue Mission.
I think you're a very special girl.
And listen to what Ava asks.
We take diapers to the baby.
We take diapers to the babies, yes we do.
Tonight at the Rescue Mission, the little girl named Ava, who is on a mission.
Way to go, Ava. I'm David.
Listen to the children. And I'm sorry, I was like, God dang, that's like 3 years old. 3 years old, and she wants to help. Meanwhile, we have 40 to 70-year-olds that actually have the ability to help and can't do shit. This 3-year-old decides that she wants to open a lemonade stand only to buy diapers for babies. I mean, damn. That's like, I've said it once and I'll say it again. This just goes to show you, it does not take a lot to be fucking decent to people. It doesn't. If a 3-year-old got the idea that, hey, I can sell lemonade to actually help babies by giving them diapers, god dang, it warmed my heart. I said a 3-year-old gets it. And it's like it never ceased to amaze me that the idea of just being a humanitarian can be accepted so well. And I just thought to myself, that was a kick-ass story. Just the simple fact of the matter is that little girl is actually going to make a difference somewhere. Because make no mind about it, I've always said not to be preachy, and I don't try to be preachy, but honestly, that's what I always say, if you can help somebody, help somebody. Now, I'm not saying put yourself in a hole. I'm just saying if you have the ability to help someone without hurting yourself, you should do so. Because you never know paying it forward might actually do for you. Almost in the same sense in this story right here, where a school drive in Pasadena, Texas, where literally they had so many supplies. Keep in mind, that's a warehouse. Now, that warehouse is literally the size of a football field. And this was in Pasadena, California, where they literally had that entire warehouse was full of school supplies. And then 7 school buses were full and still had stuff left over. Now, keep in mind, these are teachers that are actually getting supplies, because let's be honest, educators don't get enough credit. They don't get enough help. They don't get enough funding. They get overpaid and overcrowded. And yet, this particular city, decided to set this up for a school drive, and they got a shitload of donations in, along with supplies. They actually got about $30,000 in funding to help teachers. And let's be honest, if you've heard me talk, I do have a very soft spot for educators. Mainly put because so many educators actually influence me. And because of that, I see the value in the fact of when you have teachers that actually, great teachers who really do take the time to invest in kids and to help teenagers and to help adults, that shit matters. It really does. And for the simple fact of the matter, like I said, in my case, it definitely has affected me. So therefore, I'm always going to be on the side of educators, because if not for great educators, I probably wouldn't be who I was. But I love the fact that a city came together and literally tried to help teachers, because let's be honest, the school year is just now kicking in. I know a lot of parents are very happy about that. I know a lot of teachers at this point are just ready to do the one thing that they love to do, which is to educate and change lives. Because let's be honest, and like I said, I'm not being preachy, but to me, being an educator is right up there with being a fire, police, and 911 responders. You literally have an impact on our society, and even more so, you should be paid for that. But that's just me. So the last story I got here, because I said I'm not going to be preachy, but like I said, I do have a very big soft spot for educators. So the last one I said, when I know I talked about police, I do say it all the time, fuck the police. I do. The only reason because there's a lot of police out there who really do not need to be a part of the force, and it just kills me that I wish the good cops would call them out sometimes, because they need to. That would make us understand that you guys are seeing the problem or trying to change it from your side of things, instead of asking people just to join up and change from within. But I do love the fact that some cops are finally getting the idea of how to bond with kids. And this cop actually got it right, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I hope in his case, well, let me play a story first before I say it.
We end tonight with
an extraordinary young police officer. He's determined to improve relations between cops and kids. And the best way to do that, he believes, is one-on-one. Here's Jim Axelrod.
Though he's never fired his gun on duty, Syracuse police officer Brandon Hanks still takes great pride in how he shoots.
There it is.
This kind of shooting. A standout basketball player in high school and college, Officer Hanks grew up like a lot of kids he knew, fearful of the police.
The only time I ever really saw them in my neighborhood is when somebody was either going to jail or getting arrested or something like that.
When he became a cop, he wanted to change that perception, posting this challenge on Facebook to the kids he sees on patrol. One-on-one, first basket wins. If that's Hanks, the challenger does 20 push-ups. But if Hanks loses, he buys the winner a new pair of sneakers.
That's what gives me the hunger to not lose, is thinking about that receipt for that $150 sneaker bill.
He's undefeated in 20 challenges. He does get the ball first, but he's playing in full uniform.
I got my bulletproof vest on, which is also, another 10, 15 pounds. So it kind of balances out the playing field a little bit.
So far, the challenge is working perfectly.
I mean, all cops are not bad cops.
And just imagine how they'll feel if Hanks ever has to buy them sneakers. Jim Axelrod, CBS News.
I think that's a great story just because, I think that's a great story just because the fact of the matter is, like I said, it's one guy who literally saw what everyone else sees and is simply just trying to change the narrative. He is. And he's doing so through sports. And I'll be honest, when it usually comes to me, I'll say it best, sports can actually teach so much more than just the actual activity. I mean, it does allow bonds to be formed across barriers that honestly would have never been considered before. And I love the fact that he's just pretty much just trying to get to know them through a game. Now, albeit he kind of rigged the game a little bit. Well, I won't say rigged the game. He kind of set the deck, but I'm like, the guy's got skills because you can tell he's playing, like I said, playing in full gear. First basket wins. He gets the ball first. I'm almost certain there's going to be one kid that's going to try because he's going to be eyeing them Jordans and like, I bet I can get him on that first dribble. But again, I love the fact that what he's trying to do and the fact that it's actually gaining traction. And like I said, if he is one, it's like I said, because we've seen where the cops are maybe not so as forthcoming or as he is, or have tried to do things like the first people meet in Dallas, Texas, where they had a barbecue, and I always said it best, barbecue brings everybody together. Really, food brings everybody together, and I like the fact that neighborhoods and police try to come together and try to get to know each other, because I do believe that if that is being done to a certain extent, that maybe that does change relations a little bit. But again, it takes all of us. But that's going to be it for this podcast, guys. So thank you all for watching. Actually, a lot of y'all guys are watching. I really appreciate that. But before I go, there is some shameless plugging. Just like I said, I'm not the only guy here that actually does podcasts within our group, our table of bosses as we call ourselves. I'll start with Vaughn first, who actually did have a random as fuck earlier today. What is random as fuck? Random as fuck is the pool of ratchetness we sometimes dip our toes into to basically take a break from life and have a chuckle. Some videos make you laugh, some videos make you cry. Some videos, like my personal favorite that he finds, is like this one customer that's sitting at a Burger King drive-thru. The Burger King roof is literally on fire. She is at the drive-thru waiting for her change, while the rest of the Burger King employees literally are outside filming her. I wish I could make that up. That woman really wanted her change despite a burning building. But again, Random as Fuck, which is usually every Saturday, but sometimes can vary depending on the schedule. But he also has I Get That Reference VST, which is a short podcast that goes over various news that may include video games, news that may include trailers, movies, things of that nature. Highly informative and very interactive, just like my show. He also has Rhythm This, where you can reminisce over the rhythm, which he actually had excuse me, I got hiccups. Which he actually had that, I believe, this past Thursday. So Rhythm This is basically a musical podcast in which he goes over album reviews, both past and present, and he has a 4-tier rating system. One of those rating systems, which I helped to create, that I'm kind of proud of. If you want to know what that is, you have to watch Rhythm This to find out. If you go to Bond's Facebook page at 871 Weatherspoon, or if you go to Big Busy A. On YouTube, you'll be able to see a calendar that actually shows when he'll be going live with all his podcasts and go from there. My brother from another mother, Trace Brown on Facebook, also DJ King Eddie Wayne on YouTube, has a few podcasts of his own. He actually has The Bump Down, is a musical podcast in which he goes over music, culture, knowledge, and numbers, in which he goes over what's hot on the charts and what's hot on the underground, and talks about up and coming artists. And if you are an aspiring artist that wants music to be played on The Bump Down, please reach out to Trace Brown or to reach out to 881 Weatherspoon, and they'll give you the information on how to upload your music, because they will be honest, but they will be encouraging. He also has the Smoke of Truth, which I like to call the check your ego at the door, no frills, all all meat off the bone podcast that is not for the faint of heart, because he does go to the truth of the matter, and at the same time it is an interesting conversation if you're willing to have it. And it's always, like I said, it's always got to be that willing part to be able to go beyond your feelings and to literally talk about things, because honestly we're missing the fact of civil conversation. But again, Smoke and Truth and The Bump Down, which are two podcasts I highly recommend. That from my other brother from another Trace Brown. My other brother from another mother, Thomas Reed, aka The Mountain Puncher, has a podcast on called To Be Determined. What is To Be Determined? To Be Determined is a fitness podcast, and if you've ever seen Thomas, he says he used to be fluffy. He says, I'm messing with him. He really used to be fluffy. I mean, the man was almost 400 pounds. But anybody who's ever seen Thomas Reed on Facebook, he is a gym rat to a T, and a good guy actually. He does stay in the gym 7 days a week, but he also wants to help people reach their zenith, to reach their aesthetics. So he does talk about what type of workouts, type of food, things to avoid, things to look out for in certain subjects. Like he covered last week about certain supplements as far as how they help or how they hurt and things of that nature. But To Be Determined podcast was also determined upon you, which will be today, a little bit later today, 2 to 3 p.m. Central on Facebook Live. And of course, with my show, How the Frack We Got Here, usually every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon, I do have another podcast called Off Limits Podcast, where nothing is off limits, in which today on August the 17th, we'll talk about the curious case of Jay-Z. Immaculate visionary or opportunist or a sellout opportunist. So then again, Off Limits Podcast, we are the podcast that definitely goes there, and by that I mean we are going to have a conversation that might ruffle some feathers. But again, the whole point of the Off Limits Podcast is we've always been told throughout our lives that we shouldn't talk about politics, religion, things of that nature with other people, and I believe by us avoiding those conversations, we've actually forgot to have civil conversations, and that's what the podcast is all about. We might not always see eye to eye, but we'll be able to see where the other person is coming from, and hopefully that begins civility all over again. Well, again, that podcast won't be till much later, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central, which will also be live on Facebook and also on YouTube. So, with that being said, guys, the last thing I'll say about How the Frack We Got Here is crap. I almost forgot my buddy. John Wingnut of Wingnut Gaming. He actually has a gaming channel on Facebook Live. What is Wingnut Gaming? John actually plays a lot of first-person shooters, Battlefield, Apex Legends, Fortnite, his choice, not mine. But also a very funny dude, very social cat. Definitely look him up on Facebook at Wingnut Gaming, because like I said, very interesting dude. But I do play with him from time to time on Apex and on Battlefield, although I do suck at Battlefield for the moment. But anyway, definitely check him out. So, now, I think I've covered everybody. I know, my mind's whoo. But again, basically what How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. What does staying informed mean? Staying informed means that you're not accepting everything at face value. You're actually going beyond that, looking into the research, finding out the truth for yourself, and being able to show somebody what you found to inspire them to do the same, because an uninformed community is never great. An informed community is great because they're actually able to make better decisions. An uninformed community is what got us Trump, and that's how the Frack We Got Here. So thank you all guys for watching this How the Frack We Got Here podcast. Hope to see you guys a little bit later on Off Limits or Off Limits or on Thomas Reed's How to Be Determined podcast, because usually I'm in the background playing video games. But aside from that, guys, have a wonderful Saturday. Thank you all again for watching. If you watch this on the playback, go ahead and comment as if it's live. I'll be able to see it. I know you Trump supporters will. Aside from that, guys, have a good weekend. Peace.